Again, Evan, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. Belief is your key driving message that you have across all your platforms. I was kind of curious to see, can you talk a little bit about that as your central principle?
So I think everybody has a single most important core value. And when you figure out what that is, it gives you a lot more clarity for what you do, not just in your business, but in your life. So mine is believe. I try to bring that not just to my content, but to myself, my family, my friends, the people around me, the people I hang out with. So it's not just a business strategy. It's at the core of who you are. Okay, Allan, if you had to pick, what's your single most important core value?
I think authenticity is important.
Cool. So if the most important thing to you is authenticity, then it changes who you hire. If you're going to hire your next video editor, that person better believe in authenticity. You know, they can have all the skills in the world to make fancy videos, but if they are not showing up authentically, it's going to really bother you. If it's a fake person, it's really going to bother you. When somebody watches your show, they should be encouraged to feel more authentic as well, to have the courage to be more authentic. Like if somebody came up to you on the street or an event and said, Allan, because of your show and what you do, it allowed me to be a lot more authentic in my life. That's the whole thing. You know, that'll make you feel amazing. And that's what I'm trying to do with Believe. And so everybody's got something. And when you figure out what that thing is, that single most important core value, it allows you to make just smarter and more powerful decisions in your business.
I love that. I love it a lot. And I was curious, like one thing I'm very passionate about is talking about failure. And I'm curious for you, a lot of people avoid failure at all costs rather than really understanding that it's all part of the process. And I'm curious for you, like how do you look at failure and how do you make failure work for you?
Well, if you avoid failure at all costs, and you're taking the biggest failure of all time, because you'll end up looking back on your life and realize you didn't do anything. And like you had all this potential, you could have done something, you got all these great ideas, and you never took action on them. And that ends up being the biggest failure of all time. It's like a wasted life. And so one, that helps me. You know, that was how I used to always run my decisions, to say, hey, if Allan's going to have me on a show and I'm going to be super nervous for that show, what if I fail? Or what if I don't know an answer to the question? I would tell myself, you know, when I'm 120 years old and I look back at my life, that episode with Allan, that's going to be the one that changes everything. And I should have said yes to it, right? And I use that potential regret, even if it's, even if you're making it up a little bit, just the potential regret would give me the courage to go off and do the thing. The other thing that really helps me is I just keep going, you know? So when I have a video that comes out, have I had videos that failed? All the time. What do I think about them? I don't know. I'm worried about the next video. Right? It's like, if you're so concerned about this one thing having to work, then there's so much pressure on it and you end up beating yourself up over it. And then you spend days or weeks or months or years or whatever looking back on how big a failure that thing was. But if you're excited about the next thing that you're working on, you often don't have time to look back, and you can learn from, you know, mistakes that you made, but you don't have time to sit back and sit in how bad you feel about it, because you're excited about the next thing that you're about to go and create.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's more, you know, just not distracting yourself with the things around what if, but more about what's next and keep improving every single step. I love that. And I was just kind of curious around something similar to failure, which is perfectionism. So do you see perfectionism as a positive habit, a negative habit? And I'm kind of curious for you, have you ever wrestled with that?
I'm a recovering perfectionist. I lost a $40 million deal when I was 22 because of it. And ever since, it's been a fight to not have that in me. And so if it was me 10 years ago, it would have been, okay, Allan, what are all your questions? I need to know in advance the questions you're going to ask me, because I want to, my biggest fear is disappointing people. I don't want to show up on your show, on somebody's stage, on a video, and disappoint people. And so it leads to a lot of perfectionism, that everything has to be perfect. And I made all of the same mistakes that everybody makes at the beginning, of overthinking and over planning, over strategizing and over analyzing, and then nothing happens. And so if this show was 10 years ago, I would have asked for a list of all your questions in advance, because I wanted to make sure I had a great prepared answer. The problem with that is I could give you great answers, but it would be practice and would be rehearsed, and it wouldn't be authentic. Back to your word, you know, you'd have a practice answer, but not, you know, the real answer. And so it was really scary for me. And it was a process that I slowly went through to trust in the moment. and to trust that all my preparation has led me to here and what I'm doing right now. And then trust that even if the next step sucks, I'll figure it out. And if you can trust that great ideas flow through you and to let go of how it has to happen in a certain way, then great things will come to you. Think about the Allan from 5 years ago. Would Allan from 5 years ago think that Allan would be here right now, today, doing this? Probably not. Whatever you had on your life plan or vision board, like, here's where I'm going to be in 5 years. If you go back 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't say you'd be here. And so what makes us think that we can plan for the next 5 years? And like Allan now has no idea what Allan is capable of doing in the next 5 years. Not if you're growing and learning, right? If you could actually predict where you're going to be in 5 years or 10 years, it means that you are thinking small compared to what you're capable of doing. And so it's letting go of the perfect plan. It doesn't mean that you do zero planning ever. Planning can be important, but it's definitely not the first step. And it's not judging yourself and having a perfect plan before you start, which is all the mistakes that I made, and just trying to make it a little bit easier for the next generation.
I love that. Yeah, it's not about setting the bar low, but having those BHAGs that you can go after. I'm curious too, just around mentorship, and this is a bit of a softball question, but I know you credit one of your teachers, Mrs. Farr, as turning around academic achievements. I'm kind of curious for you, like, how important is it to have mentors, people to look up to model, and to look for inspiration?
So I always thought I was dumb until I just realized I'm not stupid. I just need the right mentors and the guide to follow. So Madame Farr was one of my mentors in my last year of high school, and she helped me just believe in myself more to go crush it at school. And from there, I was a B and C student, so I wasn't a bad student, but average. And then from meeting with her every week, I became an A+ student, like straight A+ in my last year of high school, just by having somebody help me. And like, she wasn't sitting there, she's a French teacher, she wasn't sitting there actually helping me with my math or helping me with my history, but it was the belief in me that then allowed me to go off. The fact that she believed in me made me believe in me a little bit more, which gave me the courage to go off and do the thing. And so whenever you don't know what to do, if you can find somebody who's done it, it gives you two things. It gives you the hope and belief that it's possible, that if they can do it, that maybe you can too. But it could also give you specific strategies or advice or tips on how to actually go off and do the thing. Since then, if anybody's watched, is familiar with my YouTube channel, that's what I try to do, is share the stories of all these successful people to help you realize, hey, like, if they can do it, maybe you can too. And you may not have a Madame Farr, in your life. You might not have the greatest mentors around you in your life right now, but you can learn from them virtually. Right now, you're learning from Allan, and maybe you've never met him in your life, right? That's pretty cool. That didn't exist when I was getting my business started, at 19. Whoever is doing the thing that you want to do, chances are they're making content somewhere. And sure, we'd love to be able to sit with Elon Musk every day and pick his brain on things, but you may never meet Elon Musk, but you can still learn from him and apply his way of thinking into your business right now, because we have things like YouTube.
Yeah, it's the next best thing to having access to that person. I guess, like, you just mentioned your YouTube channel, and that's something that I was always curious about. I went all the way back to the very beginning of your early videos, and I think there's a common theme that, again, kudos to you. You showed up every day, you kept putting in the work, and over time that compounds. I'm kind of curious, like, how important is it to show up every day and really kind of measure that progress over time, rather than trying something 3-4 times, thinking it doesn't work and wanting to just move on to the next thing?
Well, to get great at anything, you have to be consistent, right? For anything, any skill that you want to develop, you have to be consistent on. At the beginning of a journey, it's okay to experiment and taste and test and try and do a bunch of things. I made my first video, and I wasn't like the next day making another video and the next day making another video, or I wasn't consistent at the beginning. And my growth reflected it. In year one, I post on my website where I'm at with subscriber count year by year by year. And year one is like 25 subscribers. And by year 5, in my 5th year, I'm still at 700 something subscribers. It's not like I took off and was blowing up right away. A lot of it was me sucking and not having the skill, but a lot of it was just lack of consistency as well, and that I wasn't doing it every day. And because I wasn't doing it every day, I wasn't gaining the skill to actually get better at the thing. There's a reason why, from all the people I've studied, the number one rule for success that they have is you have to love what you do. love the process, not just the end result of the thing that you're doing, but you have to love the actual thing that you're doing. It just takes so much effort and so much time to get world class at the thing that if you don't love it, you're going to quit. You kind of have to be crazy doing it because you just love it so much. For most people would quit. That's how you end up winning. And so finding the thing that you love to do that you can stay consistent on so that it doesn't feel like work is the thing that ends up getting you through it. Like if you're hosting a podcast show like this and you don't like interviewing people, do something else, right? Like there's no point in doing this. You have to actually like doing interviews and talking to people and pulling questions out of them and getting insights. And if you don't, cool. Don't do it because podcasting is a hot trend. Go do something else that you really love to do. We've made over 13,000 videos now in 13 years. I've made videos through tragedy and trauma and a broken neck and divorce and all sorts of like terrible things that have happened, and videos still went up. Why? Because I love what I'm doing. And that's how I wasn't burning out. And if I stop liking making videos, then I'll move on to something else. So the consistency really matters, but it's a lot easier to stay consistent on the thing that you actually love doing.
That's amazing. And I guess like just as you're referring to like on your website, posting your sub count and kind of seeing that improvement, and obviously it's a bell curve. It's not a linear, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get 100 more and 1,000 more the next day. So I'm curious though, like knowing people on Instagram, other places, they'll not look at their success of like 25 subs is amazing. 25 people actually know who I am that didn't before. Instead, they're looking at, well, that other person has 500K, 1 million, and I'm a failure. I'm kind of curious, like even now, like further in your career, and I think it's always important for other people to kind of understand, it's like, do you ever have times where you still wrestle with imposter syndrome or self-doubt in something new that you're doing or day to day?
Self-doubt a lot. I mean, my biggest problem is still I don't believe in myself enough. Like the believe guy doesn't believe in himself enough. I believe in myself, everything I have done, but I don't believe in the next thing, right? And like the next level for your life is on the side of even more authenticity. What does an even more authentic Allan look like? That's the next unlock. So what does a Evan who believes in himself even more look like? That's the next unlock. So that's why I make the content. It's for me, because I want to be around Oprah Winfrey and Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and all the people that I profile. I need them for me every day. Because even if I just came back, I arrived last night from this awesome event in Vegas, helping entrepreneurs with their YouTube channels, 3 days, tons of hype. It was me and Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi and Patrick Bet-David and a bunch of awesome speakers and just nonstop hype and awesomeness and talking to people in the crowd. And then I come back here and I'm back home. Like, okay, now it's like you're starting over. And so I need the daily reminder. So no matter how great a day you had yesterday, today you're starting over. And you need that. That's why the habits and the routines and the environment become so important. What do you fill your head with? If you're listening to Allan's show and you're getting lots of awesome content, you're going to start to think differently. You're going to start to think like Allan. You're going to show up more authentically. If you're just scrolling through Instagram, looking at people with awesome bodies and you're hating your life, well, that may not be the best morning habit to start your day with, And so like we get to choose who we bring into our life. And I really encourage people to do an audit, like audit who you follow on Instagram, audit who you follow on YouTube, and just ask yourself, is this person making me feel better or worse about myself? And if they make you feel worse, you can unfollow them. You can unsubscribe, right? It's one button away. And if it's people who make you feel better, then cool, follow them more, interact with their stuff more. You may not notice it on a day-to-day basis, but if you are around the people, even just through Instagram and YouTube and social media, who make you feel better about yourself, who inject you with more belief in yourself, the amount of change that you'll see in a 3 months, 6 months, 12 months window will be incredible. You look back a year later and say, I can't believe who I used to be. And the only difference was I started feeding my mind with the people who helped me believe more in myself.
Yeah, I love that. I think most people don't really do that kind of gut check and see where they're at. Instead, they're just too busy being distracted by the negative things rather than, hey, how can I get more positives and less negatives around me? And just around that too, obviously you've inspired many, many people, and at the same time, interacting with so many people, I'm kind of curious for you, like, what do you think are the most common narratives that are holding most people back that you see?
Well, I think the world's biggest problem is a lack of belief.
There you go.
We would probably say lack of authenticity, but I think it's lack of belief. We have to lean in on the thing we care the most about. I think everybody has what I call Michael Jordan level genius at something. Like you're the best in the world at something. Most of us don't believe that we are. And even if we do potentially believe it, we don't do the work to actually go off and chase it down. And so that's what I wake up every day trying to solve. And I don't think I'm ever going to solve that problem, but I wake up every day trying to solve the problem, helping one more person. At the event that I just came back from, I don't like speaking. Speaking gives me anxiety. I'm introverted, I'm shy, I don't like getting up on stage. It requires a lot of courage for me to get up and do that kind of stuff. But what I love is the hallway afterwards. So after you speak, everybody comes up to you and then asks you questions. And that's my favorite, just jamming with people and helping them, because sometimes in a 4-minute conversation, you say the right thing, you give them a little direction, and that could dramatically change their life in a positive way. And I've seen it enough times where people come back 4, 5, 6 years later and tell you like that 2-minute conversation or 8-minute conversation in the hallway of Las Vegas, that was the moment where everything changed for me. And that's, for me, the best. And so I want to try to help people believe in themselves more, and also encourage them to give that to their friends and their community, right? If you level up, you will naturally level up the people around you as well, where people look at you and say, how are you doing this? Like, how did you, from where you came from, how are you doing this right now? That leads to curiosity. And so being able to put, all these awesome people out there who are having ripple effects out in their communities, I think that's how we change the world.
That's great. And I guess just around that too, like you mentioned, you're an introvert. I mean, again, not to kind of throw your credentials around, but you named by Inc. as one of the great leadership speakers. I mean, you got a massive following, 3.5 million people on YouTube, and books. I could go on and on and on. But the thing is, like, for you to do all that, and we kind of talked about this, about showing up, but as an introvert, like, what advice do you have for people who kind of wrestle with needing to, fight that constantly and have a bit of insecurity around that?
This is the biggest fight, Allan, that I got into with my agent. So I have the same agent as Grant Cardone and Mel Robbins and a bunch of, big name people. And for, I don't know, maybe 5 years we would fight, and he'd tell me, Evan, you need to be famous. Like, Steve, I don't want to be famous. Like, I have no need to be famous. Makes me not happy. Like, I have no need to be famous. I said, no, you need to be famous. And then it finally sunk in that if more people know you, more people will know your message. And as soon as he tied it to service, and maybe it was him using the right words or me just finally listening, it's probably a combination of both, in those years, when I realized the more people know me, the more people know the message. Once we tied it to service, then it became an unlock. And so the fact that I'm introverted, and any introverts, watching, listening, you still want to serve. You still want to help. We all want to wake up every day and feel like today is going to matter, that we're going to do something today that will matter, whether it's an interview show, a product, a service, showing up at your job. Like we want to feel like we're going to do something that will matter to another human being. And, Allan and I, we want to serve the world. We want to have a big impact. And for you watching, maybe that's not you. Maybe you just want to impact, the closest people around you, but everybody wants to feel like they're going to do something today that will matter to other people. So we still want to serve. And so as an introvert, that really helped me. When I'm at the event yesterday and I pull back the curtain, you got 1,000 people in the audience, and I'm the guy going, like, just before Gary Vee is going to come on stage, it's like your heart starts pounding. It's like, you know what? I'm here to serve these people though. I'm here to try to help them. And anytime I can tie it back to service, it just gives me the courage to move forward, because I think we'll do more for other people than we will for ourselves. And so it's using that in a positive way to be able to go off and spread your message.
Yeah, that's amazing. Again, it's having that authentic why as like the reasoning to drive you past all those discomforts. And just around that too, I'm kind of curious, like, you've had a pretty amazing career, of course, and you've also had to make a lot of brave decisions along the way with your early career, with starting a business, a lot of different things in between. And I'm kind of curious for you, how do you make decisions that require taking risk? Like, do you follow intuition? Do you follow logic, advice of others? Like, what do you typically do to kind of lean into those?
This is where my perfectionist nature, used to take over and slow me down. It's like I get an idea, you get these ideas, and then your brain takes over and you start researching. Like, I gotta make the perfect plan before I start. Don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm just gonna start. What I've trained myself to do is 2 things. One, I tell myself that great ideas flow through me, that great ideas will flow through me. Because it came through me, then it's a great idea. And what that does is kind of shortcut the brain from over-analyzing, over-preparing, and overthinking. That as long as you're in a good emotional state, right? Like if you're frustrated or pissed off or upset or jealous, maybe don't trust the ideas that come to you. You know, like if somebody cuts you off in line or in traffic and you want to go chase it, like maybe think on that one. But if you're in a positive place, if you're watching this episode and you feel inspired or hopeful or you want to do more, you're grateful, trust the ideas that come to you, because those ideas often don't make sense. Like your next great idea doesn't make sense because your brain tries to make sense of it, but it doesn't make sense, but your heart wants to do it. So it's listening to your heart and just trusting that great ideas flow through you. From there, to get over the perfectionism, I came up with what I call the 2% difference. So what most people do is focus on how do I plan to 100%. I'm going to start a podcast. So I need to look at Allan's setup. He's got the TVs and he's got the microphone and he's got right. And people would look at that and say, I need all that before I start. The 2% difference is if you trust that great ideas flow through you, then what's the first 2%? What's the first 2% that you can do right now just to get started? And don't expect it to be perfect. Expect it to suck. But momentum for most people is the only thing that's missing. We often use our best energy on planning. And so you come up with an idea and then you plan and you plan and you plan and plan, you strategize, and then a week goes by and then you realize you don't have the same courage and boldness that you had a week ago. And you spent all of that great energy on planning instead of doing, where the first step should be to do something. And then you start working on the plan. So if you want to work out, you got to get healthier. Cool. What's the perfect workout plan? Well, did you do HIIT? Do you do cardio? Do you hire a trainer? Do you go to the gym and lift weights? Like, what are you going to do? There's so many options. The best thing to do is just do as many push-ups as you can right now, right? You get on the floor and you do 5 push-ups, 20 push-ups, like however many you can do. Is that going to help you long-term get your result? No, it's just one day of doing a thing, but it solves the most important problem, which is momentum. Because if you do 10 push-ups today, then you can do 12 tomorrow, you can do 14 the next day, you can do 20 the next day. And then as you start to plan, maybe you realize, hey, push-ups aren't the thing. Maybe you should be doing pull-ups. Maybe you should be doing yoga. Maybe you should be, right? Like the plan always changes. Just like we talked about, the Allan from 5 years ago could not plan to where the Allan is right now. The plan will always change. But the biggest thing that's missing for most people is just momentum. So trust that great ideas flow through you and then apply the 2% difference to just get started.
I love that. It's progress over perfection. Evan, this has been amazing. It's one of the most efficient interviews I've had so far. I'm really grateful for your time. So again, thanks so much. I'll definitely link to everything in the show notes. Just really quickly, like, where can people go to find out more about you? And obviously Google is, I think, probably the easiest way to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Evan Carmichael everywhere, whatever platform you're on. How many episodes have you done of this, Allan?
I think we're up to about 370-ish, 380. So.
And where do people mostly consume it?
YouTube, as well as, all typical podcast channels.
Cool. The best thing you do for me, guys, if you love this episode, is go give Allan some love. It takes a lot of work to make a channel like this, and to be over 300 episodes in is a lot of effort. So if you like this episode, it's your first time here, awesome. If you've been, an Allan fan, but maybe haven't subscribed or never left a comment on any video, those things mean a lot. So the best thing you can do for me is go show Allan some love on this video, let him know what it meant, and give him a subscribe as well.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Evan.